The massive space station floated in the dark void between stars. It was bigger than any city on Earth, with towers that stretched for miles in every direction. This was the Galactic Council, where all the alien races came to make decisions about the galaxy. Inside the main hall, thousands of strange creatures filled every seat. Some looked like giant insects with 6 arms. Others were made of what seemed like living rock. There were beings that floated in the air without wings, and creatures that looked like walking trees. All of them had one thing in common today. They were here to vote on what to do about humans. Ambassador Zixtal stood at the center of the hall. He was tall and thin, with skin that looked like purple crystal. His 4 eyes glowed as he looked around the room. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber like breaking glass. "We are here to decide the fate of the human race," he said. "They have become too dangerous to leave alone. They spread across space like a disease. They fight when they should talk. They take risks that would kill any normal species. We must stop them before they destroy everything we have built." Far away on Earth, Captain Jake Morrison watched the alien meeting on a big screen. He stood in a room deep under the Pentagon, surrounded by computers and worried-looking people. Next to him, Admiral Susan Blake crossed her arms and frowned at the screen. "Look at them," she said. "Every single one of them is scared of us. We have never attacked any of their worlds. We have never started a war with them. But they want to make us slaves." General Richard Hayes nodded. He was an old soldier who had fought in many battles. "They are afraid because we do not think like them. When they see a problem, they form a committee. When we see a problem, we fix it." On the screen, more aliens were speaking. A creature that looked like a giant slug with tentacles was talking now. Its voice was like whispers in their heads. "Humans are chaos," it said. "They do not follow our rules. They make deals with violence. They turn peaceful worlds into war zones. We have seen what they do to their enemies. We cannot let them do it to us." Jake shook his head. "That is not true. We only fight when someone attacks us first. We try to talk before we fight. But if someone wants a war, we will give them one they will never forget." The voting began. One by one, each alien race announced their choice. The Kithara voted yes. The Altarians voted yes. The Hegemony voted yes. Every single species in the galaxy voted to make humans their slaves. Dr. Lisa Chen watched from her lab on a space station orbiting Earth. She was a scientist who studied alien life. Next to her, her assistant Ben Parker stared at the screen, in shock. "They do not understand us at all," Lisa said quietly. "They think we are monsters because we adapt to survive. They think we are evil because we refuse to give up when things get hard." Ben looked at the vote count. 847 species. All of them voted against us. We are completely alone. On the screen, Ambassador Zixtal was reading the final results. "The vote is complete. Every species in the Galactic Council has voted for the subjugation protocol. Earth and all human colonies must surrender in 48 hours. If they refuse, we will use force." The alien leader's 4 eyes glowed brighter. "Humans will be relocated to special worlds where they can be watched. They will work for the good of the galaxy. They will not be allowed to make weapons or travel between stars. This is for the safety of all civilized life." Captain Morrison turned off the screen. The room was quiet for a moment. Everyone knew what this meant. The aliens were coming to make them slaves. They had 2 days to decide what to do. "Sir," said Colonel Danny Foster, the head of Earth's military forces, "we have maybe 300 ships that can fight. They have thousands. Our weapons are good, but we are outnumbered 30-1. Admiral Blake walked to the window that looked out at the stars. "Numbers do not tell the whole story. Remember what happened when those bug-like aliens tried to take over the mining station on Titan?" Everyone in the room remembered. 50 human miners had held off 200 alien soldiers for 6 weeks. The aliens finally gave up and went home. The miners had used tools and explosives to turn the station into a fortress. They had fought with everything they had. "The aliens think they know how to fight," Jake said. "They use big fleets and fancy tactics. They follow rules that their computers tell them. but they have never fought humans who are fighting for their freedom. President Karen Wells appeared on another screen. She was speaking from the White House, where the world's leaders were meeting. "Citizens of Earth," she said, "we face a choice. We can surrender and become slaves, or we can fight for our right to be free. I know what choice Americans make. I know what choice humans make." The president's voice was calm but firm. "We will not surrender. We will not become slaves. If they want to take our freedom, they will have to fight for every inch of space. Every world, every star system. We will show them what happens when you corner a human being." Around the world, people were getting ready for war. Maria Santos, who worked in the mines on a distant planet, was turning her digging equipment into bombs. Jim Davis, who flew cargo ships between the stars, was planning routes through dangerous space that only a crazy person would try. On Mars, engineers were working day and night to build new weapons. On the Moon, soldiers were preparing for a fight that would decide the future of the human race. In space stations around Jupiter, families were saying goodbye to their children, sending them to safe places far from the fighting. Dr. Alex Turner, who designed weapons for the military, was working on something new, something the aliens had never seen before. "Give me 6 hours," he told his team. "I will give you a weapon that will make them regret ever hearing of Earth." Back in the Pentagon, General Hayes was looking at maps of the galaxy. Red dots showed where the alien fleets were gathering. Blue dots showed where human ships were waiting. There were so many red dots that they almost covered the screen. "They are coming from every direction," he said. "Every species is sending ships. They want to make sure we cannot escape." Admiral Blake smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "Good. That means they are all in one place. When we hit them, we will hit them all at once. They will learn why humans do not make good slaves." The alien fleet was already moving toward Earth. Thousands of ships from dozens of worlds, all coming to force humanity to surrender. They were confident because they had never lost a war. They had never fought an enemy that refused to quit. But they had never fought humans before. Captain Morrison looked around the room at his team. These were the best soldiers, sailors, and pilots that Earth had ever produced. They were scared, but they were ready to fight. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "they want to see what humans do when we are backed into a corner. They want to see what happens when someone threatens our families, our homes, our freedom." He walked to the big screen that showed the approaching alien fleet. Thousands of ships, coming to destroy everything humans had built among the stars. "Let us show them," Jake said. "Let us show them what happens when you pick a fight with the human race." The war was about to begin. Earth had 48 hours to prepare for the biggest battle in human history. The aliens thought they knew what would happen. They thought humans would surrender or die quickly. They were about to learn that they had made the biggest mistake in the history of the galaxy. The emergency meeting started just 2 hours after the alien vote. President Karen Wells sat at the head of a long table in the White House. Around her were the most important people in the world: military leaders, scientists, and government. Officials from every major country had come together for one purpose. They needed to decide how to fight back. "The situation is simple," President Wells said. "We have 46 hours before the alien fleet arrives. They expect us to surrender or die. We are going to show them that humans do not do either one very well." Colonel Danny Foster stood up and pointed to a large map on the wall. It showed the solar system with red dots, marking where the alien ships were coming from. There were so many red dots that they looked like a swarm of angry bees. "They have over 10,000 ships," he said. "We have maybe 300 that can fight in space. Most of our ships are cargo vessels or small patrol boats. We are badly outnumbered." General Ashley Cooper, who ran the secret military programs, smiled at this. "Danny, you are thinking like the aliens. You are counting ships like they are the only thing that matters. But humans do not fight fair. We fight smart." She walked to another screen that showed Earth's hidden military bases. "For the past 20 years, we have been preparing for this day. We knew the aliens would eventually try to stop us. We have weapons they have never seen. We have strategies they cannot understand." Dr. Alex Turner, the weapons designer, was excited. as he spoke. The new systems are ready. We have been working on them in secret for 5 years. The aliens think they know our technology. They are wrong. Captain Lisa Rodriguez commanded one of Earth's newest warships. She had been studying alien tactics for months. They fight like they are playing a game of chess, she said. Everything is planned. Everything follows rules. They expect their enemies to do the same thing. But we do not play chess, said Admiral Blake. We play poker, we bluff, we take risks, we do things that make no sense until they work. The president looked around the room. What do you need from me? Time, said Dr. Turner. Give me 6 hours to get the new weapons online. Give the military 12 hours to get our ships in position. Give our people 24 hours to prepare. And after that? Asked the president. Captain Jake Morrison, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. After that, we show the galaxy why humans survived when the dinosaurs did not. We show them why we went from living in caves to traveling between stars in just a few thousand years. While the leaders talked, ordinary people across the solar system were getting ready for war. On Mars, factory workers were building new weapons instead of making cars and computers. They worked day and night, knowing that their families depended on them. Maria Santos was on a planet called Kepler 442b, which was 40 light-years from Earth. She worked in the mines, digging up rare metals that Earth needed. When she heard about the alien vote, she did not panic. Instead, she started thinking about how to turn her mining equipment into something more dangerous. Ben, she called to her partner, how much explosive do we have in storage? Ben Parker looked at the inventory on his computer. About 2,000 tons, why? Maria smiled. Because I just figured out how to turn this entire mine into a bomb that the aliens will never see coming. On Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, Jim Davis was getting his cargo ship ready for a very different kind of mission. Jim had been flying through space for 15 years. He knew every dangerous route, every shortcut, every place where space was so hostile that no sane pilot would go there. Computer, he said, plot a course through the Titan Nebula. The computer beeped a warning. That route has a 90% chance of destroying the ship. Solar radiation levels are lethal. Navigation is impossible in the gas clouds. Perfect, Jim said. If it is too dangerous for us, it is too dangerous for them. But humans are not sane. We will go there anyway. Back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Chen was working in her laboratory. She had been studying alien biology for years. She knew how their bodies worked, how their minds thought, how their technology functioned. This knowledge was about to become very useful. Their ships are designed for their biology, she explained to her team. The Kythera cannot handle high-speed turns because their inner ears are different from ours. The Altarians cannot see well in bright light. The hegemony species get sick if they are exposed to certain radio frequencies. Her assistant, Ben Parker, was taking notes. So we can use their biology against them? Exactly, Lisa said. They designed their ships to be comfortable for their crews. We can make them very uncomfortable. In the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, Captain Pete Williams was preparing his fighter squadron for the battle of their lives. His pilots were young, brave, and completely crazy. They flew through asteroid fields for fun. They raced around planets just to see who was fastest. They did things that would make alien pilots faint with fear. Listen up, Pete told his pilots. The aliens think they know how to fight in space. They have been doing it for thousands of years. But they have never fought humans who grew up playing video games and racing hover bikes through subway tunnels. His pilots laughed. They knew what he meant. Human children played games that were more dangerous than real alien combat training. We are going to show them what happens when you pick a fight with a species that thinks flying through an asteroid field is a fun way to spend the weekend, Pete continued. We are going to fly in ways that their computers cannot predict. We are going to do things that their tactics manuals say are impossible. On the dark side of the moon, Major Helen Grace was meeting with people who did not officially exist. They were the resistance fighters, the ones who would keep fighting even if Earth fell. They had hidden weapons, secret bases, and plans that no government would ever admit to knowing about. If they take Earth, Helen said, we will make them regret it every day. We will hit their supply lines. We will sabotage their equipment. We will make them afraid to sleep at night. The room was full of people who looked like ordinary citizens. Teachers, mechanics, farmers, shop owners. But they all had one thing in common. They were all military veterans who had volunteered to fight a war that might never end. "They want to make us slaves," said an old man who had been a soldier for 40 years. "They will learn that humans do not make good slaves. We will teach them that lesson over and over until they understand it." Meanwhile, in space, the alien fleet was getting closer to Earth. The commanders were confident. They had overwhelming numbers. They had superior technology. They had never lost a war against a single planet. Admiral Zalthek of the Kythera was commanding the largest battle group. He had fought in 50 wars and conquered 30 worlds. He thought this would be the easiest victory of his career. "How? Long until we reach Earth?" he asked his navigation officer. 36 hours, sir. The humans have not responded to our surrender demand. They appear to be preparing for battle." Zalthek laughed. "Good. It will be more satisfying to defeat them in combat than to simply accept their surrender. Send a message to all fleet commanders. We will demonstrate what happens when primitives challenge the galactic order." But Zalthek did not know that human ships were already moving into position. He did not know about the new weapons that Dr. Turner had built. He did not know that human pilots were practicing maneuvers that would be impossible for any other species. Most importantly, he did not know that he was about to fight a war against beings who had spent their entire history turning impossible odds into victory. On Earth, the final preparations were being made. Soldiers were saying goodbye to their families. Pilots were checking their ships one last time. Scientists were loading the new weapons that might save the human race. President Wells gave one last speech to the world. "My fellow humans," she said, "we face the greatest challenge in our history. The entire galaxy has united against us. They think we will surrender. They think we will become their slaves." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "They are about to learn that they have made a terrible mistake. We are humans. We do not surrender. We do not become slaves. We fight. And when we fight for our freedom, we do not lose." The countdown had begun. In 36 hours, the largest space battle in galactic history would begin. The aliens expected an easy victory. They were about to discover why humans had survived every challenge. Their harsh planet had thrown at them. The war was coming, and humanity was ready. The alien fleet arrived at the edge of the solar system exactly when they said they would. 10,000 ships from dozens of different worlds, all working together to destroy humanity. Admiral Zalthek looked at his screens and smiled. Earth looked so small and helpless compared to his massive armada. "Begin the attack," he ordered. "Show these humans what happens when they refuse to surrender." The first wave of alien ships moved toward Earth like a giant metal storm. Their weapons were charged and ready. Their shields were at full power. They expected the few human ships to either run away or die quickly. They were wrong. Admiral Susan Blake stood on the bridge of her flagship, the EGS Vengeance. Around her, the crew was calm and ready. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Through the windows, she could see the approaching alien fleet. "All ships," she said into her communicator. "Remember what we practiced. Do not fight like they expect. Fight like humans." The first alien ships entered the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. This was where Captain Pete Williams and his fighter squadron were waiting. Pete looked at his scanner and whistled. There were so many enemy ships that they looked like a cloud of metal insects. "Reaper Squadron," he said to his pilots. "Time to show these aliens why humans learn to fly by crashing into things and getting back up." Pete's fighters scattered in all directions. Instead of forming neat battle lines like the aliens expected, they dove into the asteroid field at impossible speeds. The alien sensors lost track of them immediately. "Where did they go?" demanded the Kythera commander leading the first wave. His answer came in the form of human fighters appearing from behind asteroids, attacking from angles that should have been impossible. Pete's ship emerged from behind a spinning rock the size of a building, firing weapons at an alien cruiser. "Control, this is Reaper 1, Pete reported calmly as he pulled his ship into a turn that would have killed any alien pilot. "These guys fly like they are afraid of scratching the paint." The alien cruiser tried to turn to follow Pete's fighter, but it was too slow. Human ships were built differently. They were designed by a species that had learned to fly by strapping rockets to everything and seeing what happened. Commander Roy Mitchell was leading another group of fighters near Jupiter. When a massive alien battle group appeared, he did something that made the enemy commanders think their sensors were broken. He ordered his 12 fighters to split up and attack from 12 different directions at once. "That is impossible," said the Hegemony Admiral watching the battle. "No species coordinates attacks like that. They should be crashing into each other." But humans had grown up playing team sports. They knew how to work together without talking. They knew how to move as one unit while still thinking as individuals. Mitchell's fighters tore through the alien formation like sharks attacking a school of fish. On Europa, Maria Santos was putting her plan into action. When the alien landing force approached the moon, they expected to find a mining colony that would surrender quickly. Instead, they found something that defied all military logic. Maria had turned the entire mine into a trap. She had placed explosives in patterns that looked random but were actually carefully planned. When the alien troops landed and moved into the tunnels, she waited until they were deep underground. "Computer," she said calmly. "Execute mining protocol 7. The explosives went off in sequence, not all at once. The mine collapsed in stages, creating a chain reaction that brought down half the moon's surface. The alien landing force disappeared into a crater that was 10 miles wide. The alien commanders watching from space could not believe what they were seeing. "They destroyed their own colony to stop us," one of them said in shock. "Humans do not think like us," another replied. "They would rather destroy something than let us have it." But the real surprise came when Admiral Blake's main fleet engaged the alien armada near Earth's moon. The aliens had arranged their ships in a perfect formation, just like their training manual said. They expected a traditional space battle, with orderly exchanges of weapons fire. Instead, the human ships did something that no military computer could have predicted. They used Earth's moon as a slingshot. Captain Lisa Rodriguez commanded the EGS Defiance, one of the human destroyers. She flew her ship so close to the moon's surface that her crew could see the craters below them. Using the moon's gravity, she accelerated her ship to speeds that should have torn it apart. "Physics is just a suggestion," she said to her crew, as they emerged from behind the moon at twice their normal speed, crashing into the alien formation like a missile. The alien ships tried to turn their weapons on the human vessels, but they could not track targets moving that fast. Human ships appeared and disappeared like ghosts, striking from impossible angles and vanishing before the aliens could respond. Dr. Alex Turner's new weapons were working perfectly. The human ships fired projectiles that split apart just before impact, creating clouds of metal fragments that tore through alien shields like paper. The aliens had never seen weapons like these because no other species was crazy enough to build them. "Their defensive systems cannot handle projectiles that change direction mid-flight," Dr. Turner explained from his control center on Mars. "We are basically throwing curveballs at batters who have never seen anything but fastballs." The battle raged for 18 hours. When the smoke cleared, the results shocked both sides. The alien vanguard had lost over 4,000 ships. The human fleet had lost fewer than 50. Admiral Zaltek stared at his casualty reports in disbelief. "How is this possible? We outnumbered them 10 to 1. Our technology is superior. Our tactics have never failed." His communications officer was pale with fear. "Sir, we are receiving reports from all sectors. The humans are not fighting according to any known military doctrine. They are using tactics that our computers say should result in their own destruction. But they are not being destroyed," Zaltek observed grimly. On Earth, President Wells was watching the battle reports with amazement. "We actually did it," she said to her staff. "We beat the first wave." But Captain Jake Morrison was not celebrating yet. "This was just the beginning," he warned. "They sent their advance force to test us. Now they know we will fight. The real battle is coming." He was right. Deep in space, the main alien fleet was regrouping. They had learned that humans would not surrender easily. but they still believed that numbers would win in the end. What they did not understand was that humans got more dangerous when they were angry, and killing human civilians had made every human in the galaxy very angry indeed. On the mining station at Titan, Jim Davis was preparing for the next phase of the battle. He had loaded his cargo ship with every explosive device he could find. His plan was simple and completely insane. "Computer," he said, "plot a course directly through the enemy fleet formation. That course will result in certain destruction," the computer warned. "Probably," Jim agreed. "But it will also take out about 50 alien ships when we explode. Sometimes the best way to win is to make sure the other guy loses worse than you do." Across human space, similar preparations were being made. Miners were turning their equipment into weapons. Cargo pilots were loading their ships with explosives. Families were saying goodbye as fathers and mothers prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice. The aliens had wanted to fight humans. Now they were learning what that really meant. They were learning that humans did not just fight to win. They fought because giving up was not in their nature. The second wave of the alien attack was coming. But this time they would face humans who knew they could win. And there was nothing more dangerous in the galaxy than humans who believed victory was possible. The war was far from over. But for the first time since the vote, humans dared to hope that they might actually survive. More than that, they began to believe they might actually win. 6 months had passed since the first battle, and the war had spread across the entire galaxy. What started as a simple plan to conquer Earth had become a nightmare for the alien coalition. They were losing ships faster than they could build them. Worse, they were losing the will to fight. On the homeworld of the Arcturus Federation, Prime Minister Veltar sat in his council chamber reading the latest battle reports. His species had sent 300 ships to fight the humans. Only 60 were left. The rest had been destroyed by tactics that made no sense to any civilized mind. "Minister," his military advisor said nervously, "perhaps we should reconsider our position. The humans are not fighting like any enemy we have faced before." Veltar looked at the reports again. In the Battle of Proxima Station, 12 human fighters had destroyed an entire Arcturus battle group by flying their ships through a solar storm. The radiation should have killed them instantly, but somehow they had used it as a weapon against his fleet. "Contact Earth," Veltar ordered quietly. "Tell them we wish to discuss terms." Ambassador Ellen Price received the message at the New Earth Diplomatic Center, which had been built inside a heavily armed space station. She read the Arcturus request and smiled. It was the first crack in the alien alliance. "They want to talk," she reported to President Wells. "They are scared." President Wells was coordinating the war effort from a mobile command center that moved between Earth and Mars. "Good. Fear is the beginning of wisdom. What do they want?" "They want to withdraw from the coalition. They are willing to pay reparations if we let them go home." But the real turning point came at Wolf 359, a star system 40 light-years from Earth. Commander Roy Mitchell was leading a small patrol when his sensors detected something that should not have been possible. 200 alien ships were heading toward a human colony world, planning to destroy every man, woman, and child living there. Roy had only 12 fighters with him. Any sane military commander would have called for backup and waited for reinforcements. But Roy was human, and humans did not let civilians die while they waited for help. "Reaper Squadron," he said to his pilots, "we have 200 enemy ships heading for New Colorado. There are 50,000 people on that planet, including children." His pilots knew what that meant. They were going to attack a force 20 times their size with no hope of backup arriving in time. "Sir," said Lieutenant Amy Carson, his youngest pilot, "those are not good odds." Roy smiled grimly. "Amy, we are humans. We do not fight for good odds. We fight because it is the right thing to do. Besides, they are about to learn why Earth conquered its own solar system before we could even leave it." What happened next became known as the Miracle of Wolf 359. Roy's fighters did not attack the alien fleet head-on. Instead, they used the system's binary stars as weapons. The two stars in Wolf 359 were very close together, creating massive gravitational forces that twisted space itself. Roy led his fighters in a complex dance around both stars, using gravity to accelerate their ships to impossible speeds. Control. This is Reaper 1, Roy reported calmly as his fighter shot past the alien fleet at nearly the speed of light, showing these aliens why humans played with fire and electricity before we understood what they were. The human fighters became like bullets fired from the stars themselves. They struck the alien ships with such force that entire vessels simply disappeared in flashes of light. The alien formation fell apart as commanders tried to track targets moving faster than their sensors could follow. When the battle ended 4 hours later, the alien fleet was completely destroyed. Roy's squadron had suffered 0 casualties. The colony was saved. News of the victory spread through both human and alien communication networks. On dozens of worlds, alien governments began to question whether fighting humans was worth the cost. Dr. Victor Kane, working from his research station on Mars, intercepted alien communications and brought disturbing news to Earth Command. "They are calling us demons now," he reported. "Some species believe that fighting humans violates their religious laws about not disturbing evil spirits." General Ashley Cooper laughed when she heard this. "Good. Let them be afraid. Fear will keep our people alive." But the aliens were learning other things about humans that frightened them even more. Captain Linda Shaw, commanding the EGS Retribution, had made contact with the Zilani Republic during a battle near their border. 3. Zilani had voted for human subjugation, but they were having second thoughts. Their ambassador sent a secret message to Captain Shaw that changed everything. "Your species fought a war against your own planet and won," the message said. "You turned hostile worlds into gardens. You made space itself serve your needs. You built cities under the ocean and in the middle of deserts. We voted to subjugate you, but we were wrong. Humans cannot be subjugated. You are too stubborn to stay conquered." Shaw forwarded the message to Earth Command immediately. "Sir, I think we are getting our first defection." President Wells read the Zilani message with great interest. "They are starting to understand. We are not just another species they can bully. We are humans. We adapt. We overcome. We survive things that would destroy anyone else." The Zilani withdrawal from the coalition was announced 3 days later. Other species watched nervously as one of the galaxy's major powers abandoned the war against humanity. On Earth, Dr. Lisa Chen was analyzing the psychological impact of the war on alien populations. "They expected a quick victory," she explained to the War Council. "They thought they would crush us in a few weeks and move on. Instead, we have been fighting them for 6 months and getting stronger." Her assistant, Ben Parker, pulled up charts showing alien morale. Their casualty rates are 50 times higher than any previous war. Their military commanders are requesting transfers to other duties. Some species are reporting that their soldiers are refusing to fight humans. The breaking point came when the Nexus Coalition, one of the largest alien governments, lost an entire fleet to a single human destroyer. Captain Pete Williams had been trapped in an asteroid field by 60 enemy ships. Instead of surrendering, he had done something that no alien could have imagined. He had turned the asteroids into a weapon. Using his ship's mining lasers, Pete cut apart asteroids and used his engines to push the pieces toward the alien fleet. The rocks moved too slowly to be dangerous by themselves, but Pete had calculated their paths perfectly. When the aliens tried to leave the asteroid field, they flew directly into a storm of spinning rocks moving at incredible speeds. "Computer says this plan has a 0% chance of success," Pete reported to his crew as he lined up another asteroid. "Good thing we are not computers," his gunner replied, firing the lasers that would split the rock into deadly fragments. 2. Alien fleet was destroyed by rocks and ice, the most primitive weapons in the galaxy. The Nexus Coalition commander who witnessed the battle sent a message to his government. "We cannot fight beings who use planets as ammunition." Within weeks, 3 more alien governments announced their withdrawal from the coalition. The Great Alliance that had voted unanimously to enslave humanity was falling apart. Admiral Zalthek, who had led the first attack on Earth, now commanded less than half his original fleet. He sat in his command chair staring at reports of another human victory. His own species, the Kythera, were beginning to question whether the war could be won. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "we are receiving surrender requests from 17 colonial governments. They want to negotiate separate peace treaties with the humans." Zalthek closed his 4 eyes in defeat. "And what do the humans say?" "They say the same thing to everyone, sir. Complete withdrawal from human space, reparations for the cost of the war, and a promise never to threaten human freedom again." The admiral looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, human ships were hunting his forces with the patience of predators who knew their prey was weakening. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," he ordered. "Tell them that the subjugation protocol has failed. Tell them that we are no longer fighting to conquer humans. We are fighting to survive them." The war was not over, but everyone could see how it would end. The species that had voted to enslave humanity were now begging for mercy, and the humans, who had been alone against the galaxy, were dictating terms to their former enemies. The age of human expansion was about to begin. 1 year had passed since the galaxy voted to make humans their slaves. Now the survivors of that great alien armada were coming to Earth not as conquerors, but as prisoners begging for mercy. The war that was supposed to last weeks had destroyed the most powerful military alliance in galactic history. President Karen Wells stood in the Great Hall of the United Nations building in New York. The building had been rebuilt after alien bombs destroyed the original, but this new version was different. It was surrounded by the wreckage of alien ships that had tried to attack Earth. The message was clear. This is what happens when you threaten humanity. The hall was filled with alien representatives, but they looked very different from the confident beings who had voted for human subjugation a year ago. Their heads were down. Their voices were quiet. Many of them shook with fear as they waited to learn their fate. Admiral Susan Blake, now Supreme Commander of all human forces, read the final casualty report to the assembled crowd. The Galactic Coalition began this war with 10,700 ships from 847 different species. They now have fewer than 2,000 ships remaining. 8,700 vessels have been destroyed or captured. She paused to let the numbers sink in. Human losses: 392 ships destroyed. We started this war outnumbered 30-1. We are ending it with more ships than we began with because we captured so many of yours. In the front row, Ambassador Zixtal of the Hegemony sat with his 4 eyes dim and lifeless. Once he had, stood proudly announcing humanity's doom. Now he could barely lift his head to look at the humans he had tried to enslave. "We formally request cessation of hostilities," he managed to say, his crystalline voice cracking with defeat. "Our worlds cannot sustain further losses. Our people are dying. Our economies are collapsing." President Wells looked down at him without emotion. "You wanted to make my people slaves. You voted unanimously to strip us of our freedom, our dignity, our right to exist as we chose. You were confident in your overwhelming numbers and superior technology." The chamber was silent except for the soft sounds of alien beings struggling to breathe in Earth's atmosphere. None of them had expected to be here, begging humans for mercy. Captain Jake Morrison, his uniform bearing the scars of a dozen space battles, stepped forward. He had fought in every major engagement of the war. His ship had been destroyed twice, but he had survived and kept fighting. "We could end you," he said simply, his voice carrying across the silent hall. "Every species that voted against us, every world that sent ships to destroy our homes, we have proven that we can reach your homeworlds. We can penetrate your defenses. We can defeat your fleets no matter how large they are." The Vorthan representative, the same slug-like creature who had called humans chaos incarnate, trembled with psychic feedback from the terror filling the room. The aliens were learning what it felt like to be helpless. Dr. Nina Adams, now serving as Earth's chief diplomatic advisor, stood with a tablet containing humanity's terms. She had helped plan the strategy that won the war, using human psychology to predict how the aliens would react to impossible defeats. "Our terms are simple," she announced to the assembly. complete withdrawal from all human-controlled star systems, full reparations for the cost of this war, including compensation for every human civilian killed in your attacks, formal recognition of human sovereignty throughout this galaxy and any other galaxy we choose to explore. And? Asked Zixtal, dreading what else the humans might demand. President Wells stood, her voice carrying the weight of human determination and the memory of every life lost in the war. And you will remember this lesson for the rest of your civilization's existence. Humanity does not start wars, but we finish them. You wanted to see what we are capable of when threatened with extinction. Now you know. She walked to the center of the hall, looking out at representatives of species that had once thought humans could be easily controlled. We could have been friends. We could have traded knowledge and explored the galaxy together. We could have built something magnificent that would have lasted for millions of years. Her voice grew harder. Instead, you chose fear over friendship. You chose oppression over cooperation. You decided that humans were too dangerous to be free, so you tried to put us in chains. Captain Lisa Rodriguez, who had commanded human forces in some of the war's most desperate battles, spoke next. You made 3 mistakes. First, you thought numbers were more important than will. Second, you thought technology was more important than creativity. Third, you thought humans would fight like every other species you had conquered. She smiled grimly. We do not fight like other species. We fight like humans. We adapt to impossible situations. We turn disadvantages into advantages. We find ways to win when winning should be impossible. Ambassador Ellen Price stepped forward with the treaty documents. The papers were simple and direct, written in the clear language that humans preferred. No complex legal terms that could be misunderstood. Later, sign these, she said, placing the documents on the table in front of the alien representatives. Accept our terms, withdraw your forces, pay for the damage you have caused, and go home to tell your people what happens when someone tries to enslave humanity. The signing took 3 hours. One by one, representatives of every species that had voted for human subjugation put their marks on the treaty. Some signed quickly, eager to end their humiliation. Others hesitated, still unable to believe they were surrendering to the primitives they had tried to conquer. The Zalani ambassador, whose species had been the first to switch sides, approached President Wells after the ceremony. We have learned much about humans during this war, he said quietly. We thought we understood your species because we had studied your history and your technology. We were wrong. What did you learn? Wells asked. We learned that humans do not just survive adversity. You thrive on it. You become stronger when challenged. You become more dangerous when threatened. You become more united when attacked. The Zalani paused. We also learned that mercy is not weakness when it comes from strength. As the last alien ship departed Earth's solar system, Captain Morrison stood with Admiral Blake on the observation deck of their command station. They watched the retreating vessels disappear into hyperspace, carrying news of humanity's victory to every corner of the galaxy. Think they learned their lesson? Morrison asked. Blake smiled. They voted unanimously to subjugate us. Now they will spend the next 1,000 years telling stories about why that was the worst mistake in galactic history. Dr. Alex Turner, the weapons designer who had created the tools of human victory, was already working on new projects. But these were not weapons of war. They were ships designed for exploration, for trade, for the peaceful expansion that humans had always preferred. What now? His assistant asked. Now we do what humans have always done, Turner replied. We explore, we build, we grow. But this time, everyone in the galaxy knows that we are not to be threatened. On Mars, Dr. Lisa Chen was studying reports from the former alien colonies. Many worlds that had sent ships to attack Earth were now requesting human assistance with their own problems. Diseases that their medicine could not cure. Engineering challenges their technology could not solve. Conflicts their diplomacy could not resolve. They spent so much time fearing us, she observed to Ben Parker, that they never realized we might actually be able to help them. The war was over, but its effects would shape the galaxy for millennia to come. Humans had proven they could not be conquered, enslaved, or intimidated. More importantly, they had shown that they preferred peace but were prepared for war. In the years that followed, human ships would explore new galaxies. Human colonies would spread across the stars. Human ideas about freedom and dignity would influence countless alien civilizations. But the lesson of the subjugation war would never be forgotten. 847 species had voted to enslave humanity. Now they all knew why that vote had been their greatest mistake. The age of human expansion had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.